Bruce is an ecologist, a biologist, a forester, and a business person. He's an active and well-known naturalist and a conservation advocate, and also an advocate for small business development and sustainable economic diversification in Northern Ontario. In 2004 and 2006, he was the NDP's federal candidate for Parliament in Thunder Bay Superior, where he was first elected as an MP in 2008, re-elected in 2011. Now in 2012, Bruce became an independent member of Parliament, which he remained for about a year and a half, and he joined the Green Party of Canada in 2013 and is now serving as deputy leader. Near to me, we have Brent Rathgeber. He began his legal career in Calgary, where he articled, and afterward practiced in Red Deer. In 1994, Brent moved to Edmonton, where he specialized in litigation. He entered public life in 2001 when he became a member of the Alberta legislature for Edmonton-Calgary. Brent gained a reputation as an advocate for victims' rights during the contentious 2003 debate concerning automobile insurance reform in Alberta. Brent was also first elected to Parliament as an MP in 2008 and re-elected in 2011. He represents the riding of Edmonton-St. Albert. And in 2013, Brent also resigned from his caucus, which was the Conservative Party caucus, and he now sits as an independent member of Parliament. What I'm going to do is ask each of our members to provide us with some brief opening remarks, and then I'm going to toss a few questions to them about their experiences, and also one about the upcoming votes on the Reform Act, which I'm sure is an interest that many of you have. Anybody want to go first?
No, first.
Chris, can you go first?
Peter for beauty.
Hi, good evening. First of all, to start on a particular note, I am and always have been in favor of proportional representation, not just talking about it before elections, but actually doing it after elections. I've also been on and off. Sometimes I forget to do my membership, a member of Fair Vote Canada. And what you folks do, what you are doing, and what I hope you achieve are absolutely critically important. So thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for doing whatever your role is, passive or active. The fact that you're out here is great. Dig in, let's make this happen. Proportional representation is the key, the biggest key, the predecessor, the key element to reforming democracy in Canada. I mentioned that I see a lot of nodding heads here. I see that. I've done a lot of things in my life. I have quite a diverse resume. I'm a workaholic. But I have never, ever seen anything in my life as dysfunctional as the House of Commons. If you think it's a mess, and of course the Senate's even worse, but if you think Parliament's a mess, you're absolutely right. Sometimes I'm very, very embarrassed to be a member of Parliament. So that's kind of sad. To be honest, I'd rather be doing what I used to be doing, for me personally, which is traveling around the world doing consulting in ecotourism and forestry and biology, and flying floatplanes and occasionally taking people fishing and canoeing. But there's a job to be done. We need to keep King Stephen under control, and we need to get proportional representation. I'd like to build on what Rial said earlier rather. I really don't think that Stephen will form a government next time. If he forms a minority government, it will last about 2 weeks. So I'm hopeful that we will end up with some kind of minority government. If the Liberals get a majority government, PR will not happen. Trust me. But if what I hope happens is that we have a minority government where Justin is a couple of seats short of a majority, and he comes to Elizabeth and me and the 5 or 6 new Green members unbended knee, and he will lead unbending backbones. And high on the list of supporting the Liberal minority will be, guess what? So that's a good start. How about I turn it over to Brent now?
Well, thank you so much. I'd like to thank the organizers, Fair Vote Canada, for inviting me here to share some of my observations on broken democracy. And I agree with my friend Bruce that our democracy really is in peril. And I believe that we're reaching a critical point, a precipice, if you will, that if we don't start to turn things back, we may be on the point of no return, and we'll be left with a undemocratic state. I was elected as a conservative. I am a conservative with a small c. I believe in markets, and I believe in private enterprise, and I believe that less government is better than more. However, I had a falling out with the conservative government over a number of matters, but most notably was the evisceration of my public sector disclosure bill. We'll talk a little bit about that as the evening progresses. I'm very concerned about our democratic state, and I think that electoral reform is part of the problem, not the biggest part of the problem, and accordingly not the entire solution for all that ails our current parliamentary democracy. We have developed over the last, I would say, half century, a slow but discernible creep towards executive government. And what I mean by executive government is it's the executive, not the elected parliament, but the executive that runs our country. And we see it both in my home province of Alberta, and we certainly see it here in Ottawa, where the executive, primarily the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's office, run this town and this country with little regard, most days, for the elected parliament. You see 70 time allocation or closure motions within a single parliamentary session. You see all sorts of omnibus bills that don't allow for detailed vetting or any vetting of specific parts of that legislation. They're all bundled together, and it forces a yes or no vote on the whole package, as opposed to what would be more logical is if you could break them down and vote for the parts that you like and vote against the parts that you find problematic. And some people are quite comfortable with executive government. I mean, members of my old party and conservatives, as you know, are very strong in Alberta, and some of them think that the Prime Minister is doing a good job, the Alberta economy is strong, and they're likely to vote Conservative again and probably till they die. But I'm very, very concerned about executive government because I believe in checks and balances. I believe that any system requires tripwires or checks on executive authority, and we have very few that are working here in Ottawa, Canada. You have a situation where the executive, in a majority situation, gets its legislation through the House with very little effort and never any pushback. The committee system is equally dysfunctional. There's whip votes in committees. How the parties are going to vote is determined in advance at pre-committee meetings without any regard for the witnesses or the testimony that's reported before the committee. We have question period, which is supposed to be the pivotal part of the day when you hold the government to account, but government backbenchers loft puffball questions to give the minister an opportunity to essentially have a free time political commercial. And the opposition, quite frankly, is not much better, because rather than holding government to account, they simply attack for the sake of attacking, attempting to score cheap political points so that they can defeat the government in the next election. So what it all comes down to, friends, is, in my view, our executive government has devolved to the process where members of parliament, for the most part, when they run for parliament, they're not running for parliament. What they're running for is to become a cabinet minister or to become a prime minister. Everybody wants to be a frontbencher. So you see in the government backbenches complete loyalty to party and to party leader over loyalty to your constituents. Individuals know that in order to be promoted to a parliamentary secretary or to a committee chair or to the brass ring, a cabinet post, is to build up capital within the Prime Minister's office. So they do what they're told. They vote how they're told. They read talking points rather than engage in intelligent debate. They go on cable talk shows at 5 o'clock and defend the indefensible in an attempt to further their own career. We need to change the culture of government. We need to once again elect members of Parliament who take legislating and holding government to account seriously, as opposed to just a stepping stone to becoming a member of that government, part of the Executive Council. So with that, we're going to open up the floor to some discussion. I believe that our democracy is imperiled, and I believe that part of the problem is our electoral system. As I said earlier, not the biggest and therefore not a panacea, but could form part of a solution. And I look forward to a discussion over the next hour or however long we're here, and how we can maybe possibly remedy some of Canada's democratic deficits. And thank you for your interest.